All right, what about the teams that didn't make the playoffs? Had a long road, long season, definitely this year. Had a kind of a different preparation period for the draft. What were your thoughts on the NHL draft this year and any of the picks, specifically the top 10, that you think are game-changing for their teams?
Yeah, so I'll just quickly say I have so many friends that are Red Wings fans, and I can't say I felt for them fully because in 2016 when the Leafs came last, they got the first overall pick, and the Red Wings were definitely the last place team. They sucked, and they dropped
too.
Yeah, they dropped all the way to 4. But I love the Lucas Raymond pick. A lot of people thought it was like somewhat of a reach. I think I would have loved Jamie Drysdale. I think when we talk about comparisons, like he could be like a Cale Makar. And when you saw Cale Makar this year, like that's a guy you want on your team. But Lucas Raymond, like they're calling him the Swedish Mitch Marner. I don't know if I'd go to that extent, but he's really dynamic. He is really dynamic. Obviously, we'll touch on the top 3 of Laf, Byfield, and Stützle, but I thought the Red Wings pick at 4 was good. Drysdale was probably my favorite prospect, and the Ducks, for me, got a steal at 6. Obviously, I grew up a defenseman. I really appreciate that style of play. But, yeah, I think the Kings, they were probably considering going Stützle, going a guy that can play on the wing because they have so many center prospects. But at the end of the day, they went the most skilled guy on the board, which was Quinton Byfield, who – again, some insane people thought there was potential of him going ahead of Lafreniere, which I never believed. And then Lafreniere is just –
Those people watch the World Juniors?
Yeah, I mean, Lafreniere cemented himself at the World Juniors for me. Even through the injury, this guy came back and –
That was absurd, man.
Man, the goal where he knocks it out of midair, I mean, we talked about it in the potty last for our season 1. Like, Lafreniere is just next level. I don't know if he's going to be completely generational, but he's like – right below that level for me. Like he is above, we talked about, he's above Taylor Hall. He's above, I would say he's probably like really close to like a Matthews tier, but he's going to be a winger, right? So it's hard to compare a winger to a center. But Lafreniere does possess a lot of the obviously abilities, but I don't know if you
What's your comp for him?
Comparison? I don't know. I want to like mix him with like Huberdeau, with like McDavid like esque like abilities with his stick. Like Lafreniere is magic with his stick, like his hand-eye, his hands. I think his balance, obviously he's not as fast as McDavid, but I always like how I evaluate players is like your ability to be fast with the puck. Like not just like dump the puck and like be fast to get to it. Like to actually
there's plenty of fast guys that can't use the puck.
Exactly. There's a lot of guys like Michael Grabner's one for me. Like he could just play, he could throw the puck past the boards and just he go flying.
I also think he's really like his IQ. Like when I was watching it, like during the World Juniors, like there'd be plays where they'd be like forming in front of him, and he would always like he would either be streaking in and like put himself into the right spot for the play, or he would get the puck and then like create the play off of that. Like so, like his IQ with the puck and without it, like I don't know, just. Like when you watch players like that, it just feels special. You feel like they're like so many steps ahead. I feel like he gave me that feeling, like he was thinking ahead of me, like before anything. I mean, probably obviously he was, but you know.
No, I mean, yeah, right there. I mean, I would never say he's gonna be to the level of McDavid. He's not, but yeah, I mean, I think watching that World Juniors, he was giving me McDavid vibes with the puck. He was magic. So he's going to have an instant impact on the Rangers. I don't know to what extent, but I mean, we've talked about it. The Rangers have one of the brightest futures in the league. So I think that's
quick question, John. Do you think that maybe the fact that I think it was the right pick for the Detroit taking Raymond at 4. Do you think that maybe they picked him because they were like there was 3 real juicy forward prospects that they just missed out on, and they were like, well, Raymond was like ranked top as a top forward the whole year. If we snag him, we're still getting like a stud forward prospect at 4. You know, kind of like I felt like it was. I don't know. I just felt like it was definitely like the most like exciting pick like there. Maybe if they would have went Drysdale, that would have been good for them too, like you said. But I don't know, if you miss out on 3 like stud forward prospects and you have the 4th pick and you can pick like a European like skater that like will change your team like that, probably made it like a little bit.
Jeff, I'll say this, and I trust Yzerman, but a couple of years ago, a prospect with the name of Quinn Hughes was on the board, and the Red Wings opted to take what's his face? Zadina. So they took
Who was
Zadina.
the GM who did that again?
Yzerman wasn't there yet. It was
on the flip side,
that boy Kenny Holland.
Yeah, it was Holland, but they picked
on
Zadina.
the flip side, the Canucks picked Yolevi over Kachuk. Just putting that out there.
Yes, that happened. But yeah, the Red Wings could have picked Quinn Hughes.
If Dubois didn't drop, the Oilers would have drafted Kachuk. Or if Dubois didn't.
Yeah, that draft was weird, but
so
yeah.
it can go either way.
But yeah, to the point, the Red Wings could have picked Quinn Hughes. So for me, that was the only surprise when there were so many rumors that the Red Wings weren't going to go defenseman, because I just thought, I get it. You went Seider last year. You went right shot defenseman with your high pick last year. But for me, I've always said in hockey, you go the best player available. For me,
yeah,
based on my rankings, that was Jamie Drysdale. I think, but Raymond, I was high on Raymond. I think in my rankings, I did have I actually might have had Raymond ahead of Drysdale, but for me, it was like either one was good.
Were you more surprised by Sanderson ahead of Drysdale then for Ottawa? Was that
big time.
Yeah.
Like, again, there's a lot of people defending it, saying based on the fact that Brandstrom for the Sens can be on the right side, and you already have another offensive guy in Shabbat, so you wanted a more two-way guy in Sanderson, because Sanderson's a much more two-way defenseman. Like, people have compared Sanderson to more of like a Ryan Suter type, where Drysdale's you're getting more of like a Cale Makar, Carlson kind of type of player. So it's like, do you want the offensive player, or do you want the two-way guy that could be a stud on both sides? I get it.
Yeah.
But for me, Drysdale has that much higher ceiling. If Sanderson doesn't pan out and he doesn't become a Suter, then he's just going to be a guy that is like a Brandon Carlo with more offense or something like that. I actually compared that to Braden Schneider, but I don't know.
And
is it just me? Sorry, Jeff. Is it just me, or do defensemen have less of a hit rate inside the top 10? Because from what my memory, it just feels like a lot of the defensemen that get drafted inside the top 10, rarely are they actually all-star caliber players. Like,
well, the Leafs drafted Luke
Schenn
in top 10, so.
Yeah, like, this is my example. Like, he's an NHL defenseman or whatever. Like, there's a lot of NHL defensemen, like the Johnsons, for example, I think we're both picked very high.
Yeah.
But they're not, like, game changers. I don't know. Is it just me? Hughes is different, but
there's always at least like one or two guys who are supposed to be like franchise changing defensemen in the top 10, and then like it usually takes them like a couple of years before they can really like step up and produce. So like a guy like Bouchard on the Oilers, he was drafted 10th, I think, or like around there. Like he's that was a couple of years ago, and he hasn't totally stepped up, so it's hard to say. But it's also like early, so. I don't know. What do you think, John? It might be, like, there's always a couple of guys.
Yeah. I think the whole problem is, I mean, I'll say specifically this draft, and like the Leafs were at 15, and I honestly was getting tired of getting an earful of the Leafs got to pick the defenseman at 15. They got to pick Braden Schneider, who for some people was ranked as the third best defenseman. But to a lot of scouts, it was clear after Drysdale and Sanderson, there was a big drop off for defensemen in terms of potential, and this was a forward heavy draft. In the top 15, it should be at least 12 forwards being taken, with Askarov being the goaltender that gets into the top 15, which he did. He went high. He went to the Preds. But my whole point is there should be a clear separation when there is a heavy defense draft, like when you saw Heiskanen go on the board, when you saw Cale Makar, when you see these guys, Quinn Hughes, like, over the last decade, you've seen defense-heavy drafts and you've seen non-heavy defensive drafts. So, I mean, like, for example, when Morgan Riley and Matt Dumba were drafted in the top 10, like, those guys were, like, being highly sought after. But then after that, there was just, like, a big gap, and kind of everyone else, the forwards, that was, like, such a weird draft. And then, obviously, there's other drafts, like 2015, where you had McDavid, Eichel, Marner, Strome, like you had these forwards, and then the defensemen came after that. I mean, obviously some of them have been great. Like we talk about Provorov and Werenski were both in that draft. Like they are both number one guys. So, I mean, 2015 draft doesn't happen too often. And I think that's kind of the separation. Like you have to realize that, like, okay, this draft, Lafreniere and Byfield, the guys, and Drysdale could be argued as the number one future, but for the Sens, Sanderson was a risky pick for me. I really think he might have been a reach based on the fact that he was the second ranked defenseman. And as the second ranked defenseman, that seems, oh my God, we got the second best defenseman in the draft.
Yeah.
But he could have been the 25th best player. You never know.
Exactly. I think that's the whole point. And there was such a drop off from the first couple. I think Sanderson's going to be good, but after the first couple defensemen and after the first goalie, there was such a drop off where the first 15 forwards, you could separate it into like two different tiers, and that was it. And they were so good.